Dear all, I'll give a speech on the main differences between jazz and blues. I'm so curious to explore the main differences in those two kind of musics. I have used three reference books in my speech. One of them is written by Arnold Shaw. It was published in 1970. The title of the book, The Word of Soul. And the second book I have used is written by Graham Williamy. It was published in 1982. The name of the book, Jazz and Blues. And the last book that I have used is written by Henry Pleasant. It was published in 1969. The title of the book, Series Music and All That Jazz. After mentioning these books, Henry Pleasant in his book wrote that the definition of jazz cannot be answered by anyone in a commonly acceptable form. The source of confusion is not just the infinitive of musical phases of jazz. New Orleans, Dixieland, swing, bop, cool, progressive, and avant-garde, each of which in turn had been denounced by some jazz musicians and jazz enthusiasts as not the real jazz. There is a confusion about the functions of jazz as well. The jazz musician and the jazz critic do not think of jazz as dance music, nor do they want to. George Simon, a jazz critic whose career has covered every phase of jazz, he said that jazz is not really a music. It is a way of playing. When you ask this kind of question, when is jazz not jazz? The answers comes like this. When it is popular in musicological terms, jazz ceases to be jazz when its initially exotic characteristics are no longer felt as exotic. When we look at the birth of jazz, according to the Graham Williamy, New Orleans have often been called the birthplace of jazz. It was an unusual city by American standards. It means that New Orleans have always been much more tolerant towards black people than other parts of southern states. The beginning of jazz were much a product of mixing a combination of African musical traditions of the black ex-slaves and the European classical musical interests of the Creoles. Some of the most famous recordings in jazz history were made in Chicago in 1923 by King Oliver's Creole Jazz Band. On returning to Chicago, King Oliver heard rumors from musicians who had traveled to New Orleans that they think that that is a musicians the New Orleans had never ever seen, and his name is Louis Armstrong, who was the best New Orleans musicians. So King Oliver determined to have the finest band in the land, sent Louis a telegram asking him to come up and play with him in Chicago. Louis immediately packed his bag, boarded a train, arriving in Chicago. Louis Armstrong became the real star of the band soon. He introduced new varieties of tone to the instrument using techniques that were apparent in his singing. Now I'm spinning a vinyl record from Louis Armstrong. The name of the song, A Kiss to Build a Dream On.
To build a dream on. My imagination will drive upon that kiss. Sweetheart, I ask no more than this. I guess to build a dream on. Give me a kiss before you leave me. My imagination will feed my hungry heart. Leave me one thing before we part. Kiss the dream on. And I'm alone with my fancies. Yes, I Lend me your chops for just a moment, and my imagination will make that moment live. Yeah. Give me what you alone can give. I can stop in the dreamer.
It is indicated by Arnold Shaw that jazz was urban instrumental development emerging from the lively improvised rhythms of entertainment tenderloins. The blues was rural in origin, the vocal ruminations of lonely men, hungry people, mistreated prisoners, and the earliest blues developed in places with limited instrumental resources and without a European instrumental tradition. The voice was used as an instrument. The music was a form of self-expression, self-contemplation, self-amusement, and only later a music for performance and entertainment. Delta or Mississippi style is regarded as the most primitive and crude. Texas or Southwestern style introduced elements of sophistication and refinement. The blues had different beginnings from those of jazz and continued as a separate tradition long after jazz considered to affect each other, while the new sound of jazz was growing in New Orleans. Blues musicians of all types continued to travel around the southern states. They produced some of the greatest of what are called the early rural or country blues musicians. Blues have two varieties, the Delta blues and Texas blues, as mentioned earlier. In Texas, the proportion of blacks to whites was far lower, and the whites hatred of blacks was not so great in Mississippi. As a result, the earliest blues from that region were usually more relaxed, less intense, and less African-based. Blues history is littered with famous blind musicians probably having no sight. They depended more on sensitive ear. In sum up, the blues starts with blacks and comes from nothingness, willing and desire. In 1959, a black singer rose to prominence in the pop scene, each representative of a facet of black styling. Brock Benton popularized the type of boastful, self-satisfied masculinity projected in earlier songs like I Am Ready and I Am Your Hoochie Coochie Man. Brock Benton, who is ex-truck driver with the big voice, is singer-composer. At 12, he was delivering the milk bottles and the first-hand truck. Brock returned to the South. Benton, now I want to spin one of my favorites of Brock Benton, Valley of Tears. You will see in the song Benton's warmth and his style.
I want you to take me where I belong, where hearts have been broken, with a kiss and a song. I'll spend the rest of my days, yes I will, without any care. Everyone understands me in the valley of tears. Soft words have been spoken, so sweet and low. But my mind is made up, and you know I got to go. Spend the rest of my days without any care. Everyone understands me. Soft words have been spoken, so sweet and low, so sweet and low. My mind is made up, love's got to go. I'll spend the rest of my days